What's up, kitten cats? So today I'm here for just a sit down chit chat type video. I wanted to do a chit chat type video and had a hard time coming up with a topic, but I've been seeing increasingly more posts about good and bad coaches lately, so I wanted to do a discussion on finding a good bodybuilding prep coach. So to preface, the context of this video and what I'm saying here is in the context of a bodybuilding prep coach. So the end goal, the reason for you getting a coach is because you want to do a bodybuilding competition. I'm specifically in bikini. Most of you know that, but if you're new to my channel, I compete in bikini. I competed in 12 bikini shows. Sentimental this past weekend was Junior USA's, and last year I competed at Junior USA's and got first place in my class, but missed my pro card by a hair, but it showed near and dear to my heart. But anyway, so the context of this video is not general population or lifestyle clients, it is bodybuilding competition prep and everything involved with that. I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you find a good coach? And so I figured this would be a good time to talk about it, and I've had a lot of great success with my coaches. I've had 2 prep coaches in my career for the past 3 years. My first prep coach ever was Heidi Waselich of Body by Heidi. I love her to pieces. She is phenomenal. I would recommend her 100%. And then my current bodybuilding prep coach, and he also is coaching me through my off season, is Tong, and I've had a lot of success with him. And so I just want to talk about coaching. Obviously everything within this video is my opinion and what I think about good versus not so good coaches. But I have jotted down some notes for you guys, and let's get started. So in terms of actually finding said coach, I haven't ever really had a lot of success finding a prep coach locally. I've always found them online. Granted, Nick does live where I live, but I didn't live here when I found him, if that makes sense. If you're looking to find someone locally, I would suggest asking around at local gyms, or if you know any competitors in the area, ask if they know of any good local coaches. But I found both of my coaches through social media, especially in the fitness industry. I feel like social media is definitely turning into kind of a resume of sorts for coaches, for athletes, for influencers, all of the above. It's turning into a sort of resume. So I guess I just started by searching coaches, and I've been into like fitness social media before I competed. Like I followed people on social media that did the whole fitness thing. Like I was starting my own Fitstagram, I guess you could call it. So I already followed some coaches, and through the grapevine I was able to find other ones. But generally speaking, if you find a coach's page that you're interested in working with, one, contact them. So usually they'll either have their email listed in their bio, or they'll have a website. If they have a website, I definitely suggest going to it before you contact them, because a lot of coaches have just FAQs on their website that you will want to read through before you contact them, so you don't ask them anything redundant, because that is really frustrating when people ask over and over and over again questions that they've already answered in like a large document. So if they have a website, go to it. If they have any FAQs or information about their coaching, read through it. If you're still like, your gears are still turning and you're like, okay, I think this could be good, then reach out to them. Personally, when I reached out to coaches when I was first trying to find one, I asked them a whole list of questions, things like, and this will be tailored to you too, so I would come up with a list of questions that you have, whether it be about competing or their style of prep, their philosophies. I would definitely try and figure out what their coaching philosophies are for sure. You know, things like response time, what can I expect from coaching with you, pricing. Obviously some people have that on their site, some people don't. I'm totally cool with people that keep that private, but obviously if you're an inquiring client, they should tell you. Prep length, I would ask, you know, obviously with payment, are you there to coach your clients out of their show, so their reverse diet? Obviously that's something that you as the client would have to pay for, but are they willing to reverse diet people? Like I know of coaches that it's just prep and that's it, and then when prep is done, they just throw them to the wolves, which I don't think is good at all. If you are curious about any sort of certifications or degrees that they have, you know, what makes them credible, that's something to ask as well. But basically any questions that you come up with should be general. They can't answer, or I mean they can, but I don't personally think it's right to ask them, oh, like what should my macros be? How much cardio should I be doing? Blah, 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 because that's essentially asking them to do their job for free, which again is not right. The reason you're looking to them for a coach is because you want to pay them to coach you. So keep questions general, but in that, I find that anyone that is a good and ethical coach will be willing to answer your questions because they don't have anything to hide, and they'll be upfront with you. So yeah, definitely reach out to them and ask questions. another thing that I would look into is most coaches on their social medias, if they post like client progress pictures or things like that, they normally have a team hashtag. So actually, before I worked with Heidi, I searched her team hashtag, it was either Team Body by Heidi or Body by Heidi or whatever. I searched the hashtag and found a couple of her clients, and I actually DM'd them and asked them about their experience with her as a coach, and it was great. And so that was another thing that was like, okay, I'm really interested in working with her. Like, her clients have a great experience with her. She's really good at answering my questions. Her response time is reasonable. Like, all the boxes are being checked. So yeah, if you can find any of those coaches' clients and send them a DM, do it. Because, you know, you're never gonna get a more honest opinion than from someone who works with them, or at least I would hope so, because I'm not gonna be dishonest about my experience with working with someone that I'm paying, because I'm paying them. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave an honest review. You're getting my money and my time and my body. So asking their clients about their experience with them. And then back to response time. This also carries over into when you're actually working with them, but response time with inquiries, I would give coaches a bit more of a grace period, because currently paying clients should be receiving the priority in terms of their time as opposed to inquiring clients. But when you're working with them, I would say like a 24-hour response rate is reasonable for somebody that you're paying, you know, 24 to 36 hours, unless there's some sort of like crazy circumstance with, like, if they had a death in the family, or if they're like in the hospital or something like that, then obviously give them grace and be like, okay. But as a prep coach, it is your job to be attentive to your clients, especially the deeper and deeper and deeper they get into prep and the closer they get to their show. You know, I've heard horror stories about people that didn't hear from their coach like for over a week, and I'm like, why would you pay them? Like, no. So okay, let's get into the actual, I guess that kind of segued us into the actual, okay, I'm working with them, I'm prepping with them, here's what's going on. So the first thing with when you're prepping with them especially is response rate. Another thing I would look for is the response quality. So a prep coach is more than just a prep coach. You are involved in so much more than just their training and their diet, not just because you care, but you should care. That is a marker of good coaches. You genuinely care about your clients. They're not just a paycheck to you. But things like external stressors, you know, maybe work is really stressful, maybe you're a college student and you're in finals, maybe your marriage is falling apart. All of those sorts of things can impact your physique and how you're responding to things. So a coach should care more about just like, oh, what do your pictures look like? What are you weighing this morning? How are your macros this past week? Yada, yada, yada. It extends beyond that. Like, I have a whole questionnaire of just lifestyle factors that my clients answer. And I'm not even a prep coach. I just coach Gen Pop. A couple of red flags to look out for, you know, during your prep. One big red flag, and this would be before you prep with them, is giving you your entire prep plan up front. So say you're doing a 16-week contest prep. If they hand you the entire 16 weeks up front, no, that is a huge red flag, because contest prep is dynamic. You know, especially the deeper and deeper I've gotten into preps, things change every couple of days or daily. So if Nick, for example, had just handed me 16, 20, or God forbid, the entire 36 weeks that I prepped, if he had handed me all of that up front, it's like, no. You have to observe how they're changing. The coach has to observe how the client is changing over time and adjust accordingly. It can't just be, okay, here's your prep plan, see you on stage in 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever. That is a huge red flag. And if somebody gives you your entire, you know, diet, cardio, training plan up front, no ma'am, I would not pursue with that coach. Because then they pretty much don't have to do anything, which again, prep is a very hands-on job. That's why prep coaches are generally more expensive than general population coaches, because it is such a hands-on job, and because it takes clients to a larger extreme, which I'll talk about in a second. So a second red flag would be dropping your calories too low too fast and adding in too much cardio too fast. Now, what is too much will be different per individual, but if you're eating, you know, if you're maintaining in your growing season on like 2,500 calories and they automatically drop you to 1,200, that's a huge red flag. That means they don't know what they're doing, essentially. Cuts during prep, while some may be larger than others, they're still gradual. For example, my last prep season, I started at around 2,300 calories, and over the course of 9 months, because I prepped for a really freaking long time, which I would not recommend, but over the course of 9 months, got down to around 1,300, and that was over the course of months, not just up front. But what I will say here is part of the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I keep seeing people saying, oh, I had a terrible experience with bodybuilding, my coach made me eat under 1,000 calories and I was doing all this cardio and yada yada yada. And for a general population person, no, don't go under, never ever go under 1,000 calories. Like, that is not healthy, that is not sustainable. But just because, and this, I'm gonna rant on this for a little minute, I literally wrote in my notes, rant about this. Just because a coach drops you below X amount of calories does not automatically make them a bad coach. Now, if it's right off the bat, like I just talked about, that's a big red flag. But when you decide to enter a bikini competition, and if you guys want me to make a video on like things you need to be aware of before you decide to compete, let me know. I'm happy to do it. I've been around the block with competing a few times. Like, I've done 12 shows. But competing in bodybuilding is an extreme sport. You have to get to an extreme level of leanness, especially for females. It is very unhealthy for us to be there. So if you have to get to an extreme, sometimes a lot of extreme measures have to be taken to get there. You know, I know excellent coaches that have had to drop their clients below 1,000 calories for a short, acute period of time. Like, just the last little bit. It can't be something that's extended over the long term, or shouldn't be. But just because they drop your calories low for an acute period of time doesn't automatically make them a bad coach. You know, some people, or if you have to do like a lot of cardio, some people just have to push harder than others based on their metabolism, based on their body type, based on, you know, how long their prep was, based on where their body just is. And if you're not ready for a show, but you want to be ready for a show, sometimes you have to go to extremes, like dropping calories below what you're comfortable with, or doing cardio a little bit more than what you're comfortable with. But I think what would separate good coaches from bad coaches in that scenario is making you aware of that, you know, saying like, hey, things aren't really going as smoothly as they could be. We're gonna have to dip a little bit lower than any of us would want to go, but we will reverse out of it. But in the short term, is this something you're comfortable with doing? You know, because there's always another show. There's shows everywhere all the time, at least in the NPC. That's also the context that I'm talking in here is NPC. But it's not forever, and there's always another show. But if you're not willing to drop your calories that low, tell them that, and they should be okay with that. Be like, okay, then we'll just start reversing. You know, it sucks that we prepped for this long, but if you're not comfortable with going that low, then we won't take you that low. But again, this is an extreme sport, and that's something you really, really, really need to hammer in on and zone in on, and which is part of why it's dangerous, I guess, kind of, that like general population people watch competitors on, you know, YouTube or Instagram or whatever and think that's normal, because it's not. It's definitely not normal. The physique, the diet, the cardio, none of it's normal. But that's because it's a sport. You know, playing in the NFL is a heck of a lot different than playing flag football with your neighborhood people. Like, it's way different. It's an extreme sport, whereas flag football is not an extreme sport. Competitive bodybuilding is an extreme sport in the context of diet, leanness, cardio, like all of that. So just because you had to get low calorie does not automatically make your coach a bad coach. I would say dropping too fast too quickly, definitely a red flag. Or if you're sustained on that level for a long time, like a long time, then maybe like red flag, wave, high, red flag. But yeah, if they just throw protocols that you're not comfortable with at you, that could be diet, that could be cardio, that could be other stuff, like, and just expect you to roll with it without asking like, is this something you're comfortable with? I would definitely say that's a red flag. Because yes, it's a coach's job to get you where you want to be, but if you're not comfortable with what it takes to get there, then you and your coach both need to reevaluate. And yeah, just the reality is some people have to push harder than others, especially as the NPC especially grows and develops. Like, the divisions are getting harder and leaner every year, and that's just something that you have to be aware of. And if you don't like that, compete in another federation or just do something else. Like, and that's not to be elitist, that's just how it is. I guess the last thing is ask up front, you know, are you there to help your clients reverse diet out of a show? Again, like I mentioned, I know of coaches that it's just prep and then see ya, bye. I would say that's not an ethical practice at all. If your client is willing to pay you to help them out of a show, yes, help them, because if you're a competitor yourself as a coach, which most coaches I think are, I think that experience is kind of a prerequisite in my opinion. I wouldn't want to work with somebody that had never competed before, but you know how hard the reverse diet period is, so I think you should want to help your clients out of that and to set them up optimally for successive seasons. So yeah, ask up front if they are there to coach you through the reverse diet period, granted that you pay them. So yeah, those are some of my main points. This video is getting a little long, as usual with me. But yeah, so that, again, all of this is in the context of bodybuilding competition prep. Again, bodybuilding is an extreme sport, and you have to be aware of that before you go in. But there are a lot of like terrible prep coaches out there. Like, I've heard a lot of horror stories, and I keep hearing them. Like, I guess I get like, I'm spoiled in the fact that I've had really good coaches, and so I forget that there's not so good of coaches out there. But there are some really, really excellent coaches out there if you can find them. And I will try and list below in the description box some people that I would trust as coaches. That includes both of the coaches that I've worked with, both Heidi and Nick. And there will also be some other ones down there that I would definitely recommend reaching out to if you're looking to compete in the future. But yeah, it's about awareness. It's about asking questions. And as a client, you are a consumer. So, you know, we talk about being an intelligent consumer. Be an intelligent consumer with looking for a coach to coach you into a show. And I often find that it extends far beyond just a coach for a show like that. You also, I guess, last point, and this is something you won't really know until you work with a person, but the coach-client dynamic. Some personality types just don't work well together. Some coaches and clients just don't work well together. Doesn't make you a bad client or them a bad coach. It just means you didn't mesh well. That coach-client relationship and vibe is so important to them being able to coach you and you being able to listen to and trust them. So those are my points. If y'all enjoyed this video and if you're still here, please give the video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. If you have any questions that I didn't address about finding a good coach, please leave them below. I'm happy to answer them. And that is it for this video. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Emily, stop rambling. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Love you so much. Bye.